Hey guys, back again. We're breaking down another groove. This is kind of more like a tribal house, progressive sort of early 2000s groove. And I'm using the master template, the template that I sell on my site, to reconstruct, or rather approximate, this groove here. So I wanted to kind of show you how I put this groove together, and kind of the way I approach things to get a similar sort of vibe going. All right, so this is the reference groove. All right, and this is my approximation. Now, a lot of this has to do with listening skills and understanding what you're hearing. But I thought I'd go through and share how I approached this. First, I used my drum rack instrument, or kick rack instrument, which is part of the master template. Most of these tools are part of it, and the tools that are not part of it, I'll be sharing this whole project file so you can use any of the tools that that were not in the master template. So if you own the master template, you will get this. And if you are a member of the Producer's Playground, you will also have access to this. So with that, this is what we got for the kick. And I'm just going to do kind of some back and forth. So let me just assign this to the number 1. And that way I can kind of flip back and forth. So originally I thought this was deeper, but then when I was kind of going into mixing things, it seemed like that low end was taking up a little bit of a higher frequency. So the frequency is set to about 72 hertz, and then kind of just adjusted the decay. And then the pitch envelope was not super snappy. It wasn't up here. It's more of this kind of real deep vibe. And then just add a little drive. Like so. And okay, so that's the tool there. Then I came in here to the EQ and cut out actually a little bit of 58, just because it was actually spiking pretty loud. So I just did a little bit of a drop there. Actually, I could probably let a little bit more of that in. There we go. And then I added the glue compressor, the punch preset. I tend to like that quite a bit. And that's all there is to it on the kick. The snare, I used the general MIDI drum kit. That's also in the master template here. Right there, the general MIDI. And that's this here. And basically all the drums are kind of set up like a general MIDI drum kit. So you could actually drag in MIDI files and things like that, and it will play the correct sounds. But you can also, choose between loads of different kicks and snares and claps and all the other stuff. So I went through and I made 2 layers. The first is this down here. A little bit of reverb. Trying to approximate this sound here, the snare. So it's not exact, but it's got a similar sort of feel to it. And then I've got so kind of a lower and an upper. So if I start without the effects, here's the first sound. So that's what I started with, and then I tuned it a little bit with the frequency shifter. And I think, yeah, I also transposed it. So it was originally here. And then I used the frequency shifter. And then the reverb with a low cut and a high cut, giving just kind of that warmer sort of thing. Decay at about 1.5 seconds. And that's all there is for that layer. And then this layer here, same reverb, just rolled off some of the upper frequency. So we've got this without the frequency shifter. And I just, little upper frequency. Can probably back this one off a little bit. Like so. And so that's the snare. Back to the reference. So the snare there is a little bit more gunshotty than this, but we got close with what we have to work with. And here's the thing is, as you're trying to approximate grooves and, you know, kind of build your own ideas, you're not going to necessarily get the exact sound unless you're using the exact sample. So learning to approximate, I think, is really important in learning to kind of find the essence that you're going for without, you know, being a complete copycat is important. So starts off with the crash cymbal here. So we got that there, and got this here. I think they're pretty close. Then hi-hat. Hi-hat is really tricky if you don't have the exact sample, because when you try to detune a hi-hat, it can kind of cause some issues with the timbre of the sound. So you might get the sound you're going for, but the tuning's not totally correct. And that's really tricky to correct. So what I did, it's just a 909 hi-hat, open hi-hat. And I just layered 2 sounds, this one here. If I turn off the effects. That's the sound there. Just gave it a little bit of upper boost, a little bit of compression, and then I used a drum bus just to get a little bit more transient happening. And that's one layer there. And the other layer is here. And this is kind of tuned up because I kind of heard this frequency on the original. So I thought I'd go for that there. Once again, I used a frequency shifter on that. But yeah, I had to layer these because, as you can hear, the timbre of the sound changes. It sounds a little bit more tinny, okay? So had to layer it with the original. EQ is pretty much the same as with the drum bus and compressor, because basically I just duplicated the track and then turned on the frequency shifter. So that's how we get this sound here. Next we've got the bass or the sub. And I'm kind of, once again, I'm approximating this, filling in some space. And if you got headphones on, you'll be able to hear that that sub. like so. So that was the sub chain that I've got here using the second sub. So there's like a chain selector here where you can select between a bunch of different sub sounds. That is in our bass section here, right? Sampler sub, among a few other options there. And that gave a nice tone, so I went with that. Then this group, trying to get the percussion part, was kind of tricky. So I'll skip that for right now. There's a sound, like a wood sound, right after the snare, if you listen closely. It goes tick-tock, tick-tock, sort of thing. So it's like right after the snare. So I just got a wood block sound, and this is just a sample, right? This was, I pulled from what I think was from the sample library that comes with Ableton Suite. So I'll leave this in, obviously. So if you want it, you can have it. And also not in the master template, but I'm going to leave this in so that you can take it and use it as a tool if you would like, was kind of recreating some of the drum sounds. And I could tell that this here is like a drum loop. So there's just no real way that I'm going to be able to replicate the sound of like a live drum recorded and looped. So there's kind of lower and upper sounds going on. So this kind of represents some of the lower sounds. And then I can just add some extra just that there. That there. And this sound here. So I've added some delay just because there's some continuity to this groove. And I wasn't getting that from my groove. So a little bit of delay actually seemed to help fill in those spaces. Just kind of has that kind of spin to it. So all of this stuff together sounds like this. And then the wood block. So all this audio here is from, in the drum area here, I have loads of drum loops, with different sounds. And the Everloop as well has tons more stuff. And then each of these has, I don't know, like 20 or 30 different loops. So you can pull this stuff and pull in those loops and then cut them up. And that's basically what I did. Was I was just listening to some loops, and when I heard a sound that was similar, I just kind of edited those down. So all these layers are not like exactly the same at all as the original groove, but it created the same sort of dynamic. All right. And if you want to take a look here, yeah, as you can see, we've got the loop on eighth notes. One is 16th note, two is eighth notes, 3/16, 4/16, 5/16, and so forth. Let's see if there's anything else going on. Okay, so this sound here, I just spiked this frequency just to get a little bit of a note out of it. I'm going to feedback off a little bit. Cool. Then this here, just kind of cut out some highs and lows. And a little bit of the drum bus for drive and a little bit of transient. So is that there? But I just wanted that warmer sort of sound. So I've got that there. Could probably pull some of that down. Compressor. And then this here. I just took out the sharpness of the sound to make it sound a little warmer. With collision, I'm using a membrane as a resonator, mallet with just a certain amount of stiffness. I'm not really using the noise section of the excitator, just one resonator, and just added a little bit of brightness and decay, material, and each of these things can really kind of change the sound, like the ratio as well can really change the dynamic of the sound. So you just got to kind of play with these different things till you find something that really catches your ear. And in this case, since I'm trying to approximate another sound, trying to get the vibe close, even though the sound's not going to be exactly the same. Then, so with this, I started off with this EQ here, added some saturator, then tried to boost up the highs a little bit, just to get a little bit more frequency, and it boosted it up again. Right, pretty muddy, so I tried to cut out some of that mud, make it a little sharper. Then I added the OTT, and then I just played with these to adjust the highs, mids, and lows. If you just adjust this, you get some pretty good results. And finally, there is a little bit of delay. And that's it for that. And then the wooden sound, once again, it just kind of peaked a little frequency here with just a simple sound. So just boost that a little bit of compression, a little bit of saturator. That's all that was. And there you have it. That's the whole groove there. So I will make this available once again for people who own the master template and also for Producers Playground members. So with that, I'll wrap this edition of Deconstructing a Groove, and I'll be back for more. Take care, guys. Bye.